Every real estate investor knows location is everything. What city a property is in and what neighborhood could make or break a deal. So how do we know if a market is growing or declining? In this video, I'm going to use the Realtor Data to find the hottest markets in the country. You will be able to analyze market stats fast and at scale. My name is Ariel Herrera, your fellow data scientist with the Tech and Real Estate channel, where we bridge the gap between real estate and technology. For this tutorial, we will take it step by step so that even if you are new to Python, it will not be overwhelming. My mission with this channel is to simplify success for you and ideally help you avoid a lot of the mistakes I made in my 4-year investor journey. And so I want to help you build a data-driven business that has automation in mind. And if that's exciting for you, be sure to hit the like button so that we can reach a wider audience, and be sure to subscribe for new videos every single week. Let's get started. Right now, I'm on our Coffee Closers Pick City page. Here you can quickly toggle between different attributes to see which cities are best for cash flow, landlord friendly, best for appreciation, as well as hottest market. One of the questions you may have is, how do we even decide hottest market? Well, there's free data available via Realtor. You may know Realtor.com as that public website that allows you to view on-market properties. For example, here I'm looking on Realtor.com, looking at on-market properties for Tampa, Florida. Now, if I wanted to actually retrieve data from Realtor, they provide this for free in their data library, not at the property details level, but at the market statistics level. We could see information on inventory, and monthly market hotness. So what does market hotness actually mean? So they have an appendix down here. If we search hotness, for example, we could see the hotness rank specified by zip code, county, or metro. What makes up hot is demand as well as supply within that region relative to the other regions. And if we want to take a look at what this Excel file is, we could download it. I've downloaded the county one, and we could see on a month-over-month basis, we have different counties, the city it resides in, and then we see our hotness rank. We could also see how a particular county has either risen or dropped within hotness rank on a month-over-month and year-over-year basis. We could see the actual raw hotness score and how that splits up by supply and demand. We can also see median days on market. As well, we have some more information on days on market, not just for a particular region, but versus the United States as well, which helps with relativity. As well, we could see unique views per property. So maybe we want to gather migration trends and understand where are people looking to move to. This could be a good indicator here too. And we could see listing price. So now that I've kind of walked through what free data source we're able to obtain to see whether a market is hot or not using Realtor Data, let's actually work with this in Python and see if we can start to see patterns of what areas are emerging. So right now I'm on Google Colab. Google Colab is a free notebook environment where we can work with Python on the cloud versus having it installed on our machine. You may be thinking, why would we work with this data in Python? Why not stick with Excel? Well, that's a very antiquated way to think about it. By using programming languages, we can be able to scale, automate, and have more data-driven insights at our fingertips versus working in another software. So here, if you're new to Python, no worries. I'll go through everything step by step, but I highly suggest for you to check out my previous free course on YouTube to go from Python beginner to hero with all real estate related examples. I also have a course that takes it even a step further on how to use different real estate data sources and ultimately analyze a market. So here, if you wanted to get started, go to File and save a copy directly into your drive. This will allow you to run the notebook and make any modifications. Next, we are going to import the libraries we'll be using. We're going to use datetime to manipulate date objects, pandas for our data frame, files to actually download this to Excel or CSV as an option, and then Plotly Express, which is my favorite visualization library. Now, because in that spreadsheet that I showed you, there's a lot of columns, about 26, we want to display all possible columns. That's why I have this argument set for pandas. We want to read in our data set automatically. That would be so tedious if every month we're manually downloading the file, then uploading it into a notebook, right? So with pandas, we can actually set our URL to a particular string. Then we can read in our file. So if I run the cell here by pressing play or shift enter, we are going to calculate how much time this took, which is under a second, or actually about 2 seconds. We were able to read in our hotness metrics for county, read this into a data frame, and we have 26 columns and about 114K rows. So how did I pick this URL? How did I know this was the right one? By going to the Realtor.com data library page, I then went over to market hotness, and then I went to county, right click, and copy link address. If you want, you can actually inspect the web page itself, and you could see that that link is embedded. So once we read in our data, we want to understand a little bit more of what this data looks like. This is where we do EDA, Exploratory Data Analysis, which is typical whenever doing analytics related work. So here we're going to read in our first few rows within our Google Colab notebook. We could see we have month, date, the county FIPS code, county name, the city the county resides in, and those interesting columns like hotness rank that we want to observe further. We could see towards the end that we have listing price as well. So this mirrors the same data that had previously opened up in Excel. If we view our last 5 rows, we could see something a little bit interesting here. We see that the month, date, year has a strange data piece at the bottom. It says quality flag, please contact economics realtor. Basically, it's an added row that doesn't provide us information, so we want to remove this. We will do so in the following steps for transformation. But if you wanted to understand more about each of these columns, you could use describe as well. We could see here, for example, for the hotness rank, that we have the highest hotness rank, or minimum in this case would be 1, and it goes to 1595. There are about 3,000 counties in the United States, so off the top of my head I could see that it's missing about half of them. However, I'd expect that at least the larger markets are being accounted for. Then going to transformations. As I mentioned previously, we have that weird piece where the last row is not informative, so we want to drop it from our analysis. We could do so by running the cell. So we're choosing everything, all rows except the last row, -1. So we're indexing our rows here. And then I'm going to observe that last row, which should no longer have that strange text. We've been able to read in our file. We've done some EDA to understand a little bit more about our data set. And now we want to transform this so that we can actually start to analyze the markets and see which ones are the hottest. Here we're going to add features. So as mentioned previously, we're going to remove that last row, and we're going to call it a new data frame called features. So here I'm going to create a new column state. I'm taking the column county name, splitting it by that comma and space, so this part right here, and I'm going to grab that last element, which should be the 2 characters for the abbreviation of the state, and I want it to be uppercase. The next column that I'm going to create is time period. So from what we observe in our first column, we do have time period, but it's in a string format, and it's year as well as month. This is going to be difficult when we try to plot this. So in this case, I'm actually transforming this into a date time object, and I'm saying that first piece is year, which this is year, and then that second piece is month. So that's how it's able to read in my string and then change it into a date time object. Then for the last piece is we have rank, but maybe I don't care about rank in a whole other state that I'm not investing in, for example, Oklahoma. In this case, if I want to focus on just the rank for a particular state, I will need to create a new ranking algorithm or a new ranking feature. So here I'm going to group by state and time period, so I could see for a particular month and a state what is the hotness rank. So let's run this here. And it's going to add those 3 columns that I mentioned. We go all the way to the right. We could see we now have state, We have time period formatted in datetime object, and we have a hotness state rank that's relative to the state and the time period rather than across the country. Now that we have our features, I want to filter on a state of interest. So for my particular scenario, I reside in Florida and invest in Florida as well. So I'm going to have my state of interest to be Florida, which you could also change on your preferences. Then I'm going to filter specifically on Florida because I want to see for those counties in Florida which ones are most performant on a month-to-month basis. So when I do this filter, I have now reduced my data set from about 114K rows down to about 3,500 rows. There are in total 29 columns because I added those 3 to the original data set. And we have about 50 or so unique counties within Florida. Then for the time periods, there are 73 unique time periods. And if we just do some quick math here, 73 divided by 12, that means we have about 6 years of data or so, split on a month-to-month basis. And if we want to observe what that time period is, we can filter on those columns or select those columns and view the min and max. So our most recent date in this case is July of 2023, which will likely be updated if you were to run this on your end. Then the data goes as far back as 2017 August. So we have at this stage about 50 different counties for the Florida example in our filtered data set. But maybe I don't care about all 50, I just want to look at the top 10. So here I'm looking at the latest time period. So in my case, that would be July of 2023. I want to filter on the latest time period and only select those counties that are considered top 10. So their hotness rank is within the first 10. I sort my values by the hotness state rank and then select the first 10 rows. This table looks pretty similar, except we now have our hotness rank up until 10, and then those other counties that are 10 and down are dropped because they're not as much of an interest point for me at this stage. So we've been able to read our data set, filter, transform, add features, and now it's time to finally visualize. Visualizations are so important because it helps us to quickly scan and be able to see patterns within the data set. So I'm taking my top 10 counties and putting them into a list, both the county name and the FIPS code. So if we review this, we could see the top 10 counties. And if I look at the FIPS code here, you could see the corresponding FIPS code for each. I am now going to observe, using Plotly Express, the hotness score for each of these 10 counties. We're doing so by filtering on county name and only looking at those top 10. If I run this, we have our data frame, our time period, hotness score, which is going to be on our y-axis, our color, so we want to split our data by the county name, and then I have a dynamic title based on the state that you chose to observe. From our chart, we could see the hottest markets based on the hotness score. We could see that Lee County, so the one in this pink, has also been hot around 2022 and relatively throughout 2023 as well. If we look at Lee County on the map, it is the Fort Myers Cape Coral area, which was pretty rocked in terms of the hurricane, the area that's really close to the water, but beforehand was super hot market, so that makes sense why we would see it as one of the hotter ones in our chart. And if we want to observe one more, we could see Highlands in green. Let's try to just isolate this one particular region. It's relatively been a hot market with peaks coming in December and January. I like to ideally see something that's just trending upward entirely rather than just being horizontal. But if we look to observe where is this county, Highlands County, it looks like it's in the dead center of Florida. and it's kind of like the middle part between Orlando, Tampa, and Miami and Fort Myers. So maybe this would be of interest to possibly invest in or try to investigate further if this is an up and coming area. So the hotness score relatively helps to understand demand and supply, but what if we want to get a little bit more granular? One of my favorite metrics is days on market. Here we can plot days on market, and we could see for those counties which ones had more demand than supply. And if we look here, if we isolate, say, just the pink, which I was able to quickly just observe a visualization that this one trended down for a period of time, we could see back in 2018 for a property that was in the Miami-Dade County area, so in Miami, typically stood on market for about 3 months, which is relatively healthy for a market. This stayed pretty stable with a bit of an increase of property staying on market July of 2020. And then we see this huge downturn between 2021 through to, I would say, the beginning of 2023 of median days on market falling as low as 43.5 days. If I click back on all the counties to observe each of them, I could see that for Walton, Florida, days on market was as low as 21, which signals to me that there were a lot of cash offers because typically a lender will need 30 days at minimum to allow a buyer to close. So 21 days, yeah, that's pretty significant there. And if I was looking to invest in a new market, I would like to see days on market generally staying stable or decreasing relative to other areas that are similar. Let's also look at listing price. Listing price is important because ultimately if we have a region that we really like and want to invest in, but we're completely priced out, which could happen, we want to know those areas that are maybe more affordable to shift to. So here we could look at listing price. And if we see that Walton area actually has some pretty expensive homes, it seems like. And maybe that's going to be too difficult for us to invest in. So we can take this out, for example. Then we could see that Collier County, Florida has had a huge increase, similar to Miami-Dade that did as well, from properties, the median listing being around 480K in the beginning of 2021 to being practically double only 2 years later is pretty insane. For those that had that type of appreciation for their homes and then sold at the top, made very well for themselves. For Collier, Florida, I'm not sure where that is, so I can take a look here and view it on the map. It looks to be south of Fort Myers in the Naples area, which also has a lot of retirees, but also we could see Marco Island, which is a hot destination. You could see all these golf clubs as well. So there's likely some wealth in that area. So if I take out maybe this one too, I could see other markets that have had increases, but maybe more affordable. So if we look at this blue one, Bay, we could see within this 5-year band, a couple of counties have stayed relatively around the same listing price, but particularly Jackson County and this one, Bay County, Florida, have had a larger increase relative to comparable markets. So we may want to look into investing there. For this data, if we wanted to just look at those counties from our subject state, we can observe that within a CSV file by taking our data frame, that is DF filter, to a CSV, which I called output CSV. Then here we could see that same market data, and now it has those 3 features we added, as well as the select state that we input to. On the topic of location, if you're looking for a readily available tool to use, then check out Coffee Closers, a company that I co-created with 2 other outstanding developers. And not only am I the co-creator, but I'm also the data scientist behind the product. I've taken 4 years of real estate data analytics experience and put it into a single product to help you find deals fast. And as you can see, we have maps that allow you to quickly understand which areas are A, B, C, and D, So if your investment strategy is for appreciation on the most part, you can maybe focus on those A markets. But if you're looking to have growth of appreciation over a long period of time and possibly want to take a chance of going for an emerging area, then you could definitely find those neighborhoods that are up and coming, those B and C neighborhoods. So definitely check out Coffee Closers if you haven't already. As well, join our Tech and Real Estate Facebook group where you could partner with other individuals on investment strategies, data analytics, tools, and also be able to ask questions to peers. All right, I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks.